Hello everyone! I thought of sharing to you guys some more albums that I have on my collection and maybe get you to be interested into listening to CDs and give you some idea next time you walk across a music store. 1990s was my coming of age when it comes to music. Nowadays, young people wear t-shirts showing the name or logo of these bands, maybe to look cool, but I lived and breathed this music 30 plus years ago. This is the decade that formed my taste in music, and I want to share my top 5 CDs of rock bands that in my opinion define that decade. Number 5 on my list is the album Dookie by Green Day. It was Green Day's third studio album and was released by Reprise in 1994. The intricate sleeve design features bombs being dropped on the East Bay, California punk pop scene where the band grew up, with Green Day exploding out of the wreckage. The title of the album was a reference to the band suffering from diarrhea whenever they went out on tour. This is the album that jump-started the 90s punk pop revival. The songs are written mostly by singer and guitarist Billy Joe Armstrong and is largely based on his personal experiences and sings about boredom, anxiety, relationships, and sexuality. The record won a Grammy Award for Best Alternative Album at the 37th Annual Grammy Awards in 1995. It's ranked number 193 on Rolling Stone's Greatest Albums list. Just in 2024, this album was selected for preservation in the United States National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Basket Case is another catchy song that deals with Armstrong's anxiety attacks and feelings of going crazy before being diagnosed with a panic disorder. My favorite is When I Come Around, which was inspired by Adrienne Nesser, Armstrong's girlfriend and eventual wife. It's described as the closest thing to a ballad on the album. Number 4 on my list is the Black Album by Metallica. This is the 5th studio album by American heavy metal band Metallica and was released by Elektra in 1991. This is one of the best-selling metal albums ever and received widespread critical acclaim. It debuted at number 1 in 10 countries and spent 4 consecutive weeks at the top of the Billboard 200, making it Metallica's first album to top the album charts. With over 30 million copies sold worldwide, this album is one of the best-selling albums worldwide and also one of the best-selling albums in the United States. It's ranked number 255 on Rolling Stone's Greatest Albums list in 2012. Metallica has been reissued several times, including in 2008, in 2010, and in 2014. To mark its 30th anniversary, a remastered edition was released on September 10, 2021. The album marked a change in the band's music from the thrash metal style of their previous 4 albums to a slower, heavier, and more refined sound. They released 5 singles to promote the album: Enter Sandman, The Unforgiven, Nothing Else Matters, Wherever I May Roam, and Sad But True, all of which have been considered to be among the band's best-known songs. Enter Sandman, I would say, is one of the best opening track in rock music. My favorite though is Wherever I May Roam. The intro of the song is notable for its unusual instrumentation for the band. Asian instruments such as gong and sitar along with an overdubbed Warwick 12-string bass. Instruments not usually used by heavy metal bands, such as the cellos in The Unforgiven and the orchestra in Nothing Else Matters, were added at producer Bob Rock's insistence. Number 3 on my list is Automatic for the People by R.E.M. It is the 8th studio album by American rock band R.E.M. and released on 1992 by Warner Brothers. R.E.M. began production of this album while their previous album, Out of Time, which was released in 1991, was still going up the charts and achieving global success. R.E.M. biographer David Buckley wrote, Automatic for the People is regarded by Peter Buck and Mike Mills and by most critics as being the finest R.E.M. album ever recorded. This is a very well-recorded album, with songs mostly acoustic and ballads with only 3 rock songs: Ignoreland, The Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight, and Man on the Moon. The song Drive, The Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight, Everybody Hurts, and Night Swimming feature string arrangements by former Led Zeppelin bassist John Paul Jones. Of the 14 classical musicians, 11 were members of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, which had also been used on their album Out of Time. Everybody Hurts was inspired by Nazareth's cover of Love Hurts. Michael's type have that haunting voice, and much like the lead singers of all great bands, have a signature singing style that you will recognize right away. Stipe recalls that on this album, song by song, the whole album is referencing the 1970s. Standouts for me are Everybody Hurts and Man on the Moon. Automatic for the People is REM at the very top of their form. It's ranked number 249 on Rolling Stone's Greatest Albums list in 2012. And number 2 on my list is 10 by Pearl Jam. This debut studio album by the American rock band Pearl Jam was released by Epic in 1991. While highly regarded as one of the most influential albums of the 90s now, it didn't reach the top 10 of the Billboard charts until a year after it was released. This album spawned countless imitators and pushed what was then known as alternative rock to its peak and sold millions of records. Eddie Vedder's vocal style will be emulated by many of the singers who followed in the mid to late 90s. During the recording of the album, the band was known as Mookie Blaylock, the professional basketball player. It changed its name after signing to Epic Records, but kept the nod to Blaylock by naming the album after the player's jersey number. The album produced 3 hit singles, Alive, Even Flow, and Jeremy. Jeremy became one of Pearl Jam's best-known songs and received nominations for Best Rock Song and Best Hard Rock Performance at the 35th Grammy Awards. The songs on 10 deals with dark subject matter, but it has generally been seen as a high watermark of the early 1990s alternative rock band, with Vedder's unusually deep and strong voice against the unrestrained guitar-heavy hard rock sound. The album has since been ranked by several publications as one of the greatest albums of all time. It's number 79 on VH1 Greatest Album list and number 209 on Rolling Stone's Greatest Albums list. They do have some high-profile critics though. Nirvana's Kurt Cobain blasted Pearl Jam in Musician magazine, calling them corporate alternative bandwagon. But by their next album, 1993's BS, they adopted a grittier sound and for the most part stayed clear of 10's accessibility. 10 remains Pearl Jam's most successful album to date. And the number 1 album that to me have defined 90s rock music is Nevermind by Nirvana. This album was released by Geffen in 1991. Kurt Cobain's sense of humor was certainly intact when he created the sleeve for Nevermind, the album which would make his band global superstars. This album was number 2 on VH1's Greatest Albums list in 2003 and number 17 on Rolling Stone's Greatest Albums list in 2012. Their sound would soon come to be known as grunge. This album was most of the world's introduction to the band, but it was in fact their second album. This album kicked Michael Jackson off the top of the Billboard album chart and blew hair metal off the map. No album in recent history has such an overpowering impact on a generation. A nation of teens suddenly turned punk, but had such a catastrophic effect on its main creator. Nevermind opened with a powerful hit single, Smells Like Teen Spirit. It was said that Nirvana didn't realize what a powder keg of a song they have. Kurt Cobain thought he was just riffing on a piece of graffiti written by Riot Girl Bikini Girl singer Kathleen Hanna. But it turns out he was speaking to an entire generation of bored adolescents. Lithium, Breed, and Teen Spirit have that soft, loud tension that Kurt created between verse and chorus, restraint and assault. A little trivia. Nevermind producer Butch Vig remembers hearing Kurt play John Lennon's Julia at sessions. The way to fame led Kurt Cobain to take his own life in 1994. That is 3 short years after their debut, and many people could not help but notice the eerily prophetic messages on his lyrics. In the song Come As You Are, Kurt seems to be raising his right hand while crossing his fingers behind his back as he swears, he doesn't have a gun. And that's my top 5 CDs of albums by 90s rock bands which to me have impacted music greatly that decade. These 5 albums are great records and have great music that goes with it. I know there's much more albums of 90s bands that you should try out and enjoy, but I think these 5 CDs should be at the top of your list as they will be great to hear on a great hi-fi system. Let me know your favorite rock albums from the 90s. Happy listening!